Scrappy friends, it's Paige Evans. It's been a minute, or rather almost 3 years since I flipped through my stack of layouts that I usually keep in that corner up there. And now I have 137 layouts to show you. Let's flip on through. Hello, hello. I've divided the pile into about 5 or 6 little piles so that they can all fit in the frame. Otherwise it would be like way up here. And I'm starting with older collections and then random collections, and then we'll go through other collections. So what I mean by that is this first layout was made using my Truly Grateful collection, and it features one of the cut files from my 12 love cut files, my cute kitties, of course. This next page is featuring some mixed media, and I used my Bloom Street collection for the stickers, and I tried to coordinate the colors. So I do have a process video for this one, and it's just very springy and florally. This page is featuring stamps. This was a set of stamps that was in Joann's store, so I don't tend to use a lot of stamps on my layouts. This was a really fun way to try experimenting with all of the different stamps included in these sets, and coordinated with the colors in Bloom Street, including some of the sequins from that collection. So these all use my Bloom Street collection, which came out, I believe, in 2019 or 2020. This is also one of the cut files from my 12 love cut files. Added some hand stitching, light watercolors, backed some of the sections with pattern papers from Bloom Street, and backed some of the open spaces with photos. Bloom Street is a very floral and springy collection, but it could also work for Christmas. So during the Christmas season, we went to Honeybee's Macaroons, and they had a really cute Christmas tree set up. So I backed this Christmas tree made of stars with pattern papers from Bloom Street. Here is a layout that I taught in a virtual class for Scrapbook and Cards today. A large title is the main focus, and the letters were cut from Bloom Street pattern papers. Tucked a photo in here. If you want to add additional photos, you could tuck them under more of the letters, and then all of the embellishments are from Bloom Street as well. This paper tearing curling technique is one that I taught in the same class for Scrapbook and Cards today. This is one pattern paper that we trimmed into strips and then curled up the edges and then embellished with bits and pieces from Bloom Street. Balanced what we have going on the top with a little bit of tearing at the bottom so your eye doesn't fall right off the bottom. And of course you could always add additional photos. I just like using one photo most of the time. This page has 2 photos and another large title cut from pattern papers made with Bloom Street. Did a mixed media background first with white acrylic paint and watercolors. This is one of those layouts that I love creating with all of the floral die cuts in my collections. And so I did the mixed media background first and then topped it with almost a whole package of the floral die cuts from Bloom Street. This was made for the magazine, and it features 2 rows of tags made with, you guessed it, Bloom Street. Here's another experiment with stamping. So I made a star out of washi tape strips, stamped inside, and then filled in the spaces with sequins, enamel dots, puffy words, and then added a photo down here on the bottom left. You could add additional photos around the outside of the star as well. That's the last of the pages made with Bloom Street. Doesn't mean forever. I could always go back and use some more Bloom Street because I have it in my stash. This page is featuring floral dies, and I layered them together. These are just random papers from my collections, and I like the punched borders across the top and bottom just for a little extra whimsy. This was made for Altenew. These are their floral dies, so I cut them from textured cardstocks and then layered them across the background. Here is a page made with Turn the Page for my 12 love cut files. A lot of these are made with the digital collection, so all of my collections are actually available at acdigitals.com. So if you run out of florals, you could always print more. And then I did a chain link stitch on top of these letters for texture. These next two pages were made for the Pink Fresh Studio paper crafting event in 2022. So I backed this cut file that was included in the kits with pattern papers and then embellished tone on tone. Here we made paper pinwheels using the Pink Fresh Studio papers. So it's kind of like a pinwheel garden, and then tucked a photo up into the top. You could tuck another photo right here as well. Here's another garden layout. So I freehand cut these circles, layered them tone on tone, embellished tone on tone, and it's just a pretty garden. This was made with my older Horizon collection. One more garden. See, I love how you can take one idea and repeat it with different collections and different shapes to get completely different results. So these are also freehand cut circles layered together. And then I tucked two photos in behind the flowers. Hearts for the win, so that's the technique I featured here, and then replaced one of the hearts with a heart-shaped photo. Here is a wreath, so I hand-cut petals from one of the pattern papers in Horizon, machine stitched through them with same colored thread, and then placed them in this off-center wreath. Here is a paper wedges layout placed in a sunburst design. So we've got our focal photo right in the center and everything is radiating out. This is using my older Pick Me Up collection. This page was made with a Jen Hadfield collection using one of the cut files from my 12 love cut files, and got the kids' school photos from the 2021-2022 school year. Since the background large title does most of the work, I just embellished here and there with lots of florals and butterflies and sentiments. This page is a grid design, so I did some paper weaving with paper strips from the barcode strips that come at the top of my pattern papers, and then tucked flowers here and there. Look, I got 5 photos on this page. Another layout made for my 12 love cut files. This is a Maggie Holmes collection. So I had the machine cut out the backing pieces, so it was a lot easier to just glue them all instead of cutting them out by hand. And then a black and white photo of me and my very own Chris Evans. This is another Maggie Holmes collection. So I die cut leaves, watercolored them, machine stitched them, and then had the machine cut out these letters, did hand stitching. So it's very textured and documenting. This is Thanksgiving from 2019. So both of my grandmas have since passed away. I am so thankful for scrapbooking to document these memories so I can always remember my beautiful grandmas. The last page of this stack is another layout for Pink Fresh Studio. This is another grid design. It's so nice to focus on one section at a time, and by using the same collection, it ensures that everything matches and coordinates perfectly. Let's bring in the next stack. On to stack number 2. These next few pages use my Go the Scenic Route collection. So for this layout, I started with an idea. I said, Jane, hold up your hand as if you're holding a bouquet of balloons. So there's actually nothing in her hand, but then I built the layout to look like she's holding a bouquet of balloons, and these were all made with heart punches. I love punches. I have a whole cabinet full of punches. It's a great way to make a lot of the same shape with pattern papers quickly. This page is a cut file, a sketch and stitch cut file. So it's this floral frame, which I stitched with a variegated floss and then embellished with bits and pieces from Go the Scenic Route. This was a layout I made for the cover of the winter 2021 or 2022, sorry, I can't remember, issue of Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine. So I backed the snowflakes with bright patterned papers from Go the Scenic Route. And then here's the title, made with the thickers and just minimal embellishing so that the colorful background can really shine. Here's the floral heart made with the florals from Go the Scenic Route. I didn't do mixed media on the background of this one, but I did choose a dark red and pink. It's kind of ombre background to mimic my, not mimic, but highlight my love for scrapbooking. That's what this page is all about. This page I used a cut file, so a leaf cut file, and cut it from a single pattern paper, machine stitched through them, and then created a wreath of leaves. Here is a globe cut file filled in with ephemera die cuts from Go the Scenic Route, which is mostly travel themed, so it's perfect for adventure themed, travel themed scrapbooks and layouts. Here is a floral heart cut file from my 12 love cut files, so I backed it with pattern papers from Go the Scenic Route, and that becomes the main focal design of this page. This one's a fun one featuring fringed paper strips from Go the Scenic Route, and it's a large title which fills up most of the background. This page features stamping, so I used the stamps from Go the Scenic Route, fussy cut them all, glued them onto the background, and then machine stitched swirls and twirls all over on top. This page is butterfly punches. So again with punches, I love punches so much. I used 3 different kind of lacy doily looking butterfly punches, punched from one single pattern paper from Go the Scenic Route, and then layered them kind of in this cross shape across the background and added the photo down here. This is a cut file from, I believe, 20 summer cut files. These are all available as bundles in my shop, pagetaylorevans.com. I will leave a link. So I backed all of the different segments of this castle with Go the Scenic Route papers and then tucked my photos into the top to document a fun day at our faux beach. It is a reservoir, a man-made reservoir, but with sand. So since we don't live next to a beach anymore, this is a perfect second. Here is a Quilt Like page. So it features one of the Go the Scenic Route papers, and I did machine stitching through each of the petals. Layered flower cut files made in monochromatic colors, so all of the pinks from the collection, all of the oranges, the yellows, blues, and pinks, and then tucked green leaves behind for a pop of color. This page features hand stitching, so one of the papers in Go the Scenic Route has all of these different stitches on it, so I just went right over the stitches with matching colors of floss. So it's got chain link, it's got French knots, it's got back stitch, all kinds of different stitches. Here is another hand stitched page. So it's one of my sketch and stitch cut files. So it draws the design first. So if it didn't have the design drawn, it might be really hard to see where to stitch next. So it draws the design and then pierces the holes. So it's really easy to go back and hand stitch through. And I used a variegated floss again. Just used a limited color palette from Go the Scenic Route, such as blues and pinks and greens. And I pulled embellishments in those colors from Go the Scenic Route to decorate. Here's a stars background cut file cut from Go the Scenic Route, and I filled in the largest star with a photo of Mr. Fox. This page is also with Go the Scenic Route, so I did some mixed media on the background with stencils and watercolors and modeling paste, and then topped fussy cut butterflies and chipboard sticker butterflies on top. Here's a fringed Christmas tree. So I die cut the tree shape first and then backed it with strips of fringed paper placed in rainbow order, because goodness knows I love all the colors in the rainbow. Here I used the foil quill from We Are Makers. I have my own little USB with designs. This design, however, is from my 20 summer cut files. I do have a USB though with a bunch of different designs from my collections, but you can turn basically any cut file into a foil quill design. You just replace the tool in the machine with the hot foil quill. And then I embellished with Go the Scenic Route. Here are triangles of paper strips. So each of these is placed in a triangle and then radiates out, so that creates a fun and colorful wreath. This is a great way to use your barcode strips in a clever way. Go the Scenic Route is travel themed with bright colors, but it could also work for fall. So this is a happy fall y'all, and I just backed this large leaf cut file with pattern papers from Go the Scenic Route. I did a campaign with Paramount, I believe. Yes, Paramount. So that was kind of fun. And I made scrapbook layouts for my campaign. Oh, look, that heart needs to be glued back in place. Always use liquid glue to reinforce your pages, to reinforce your embellishments. So large title and then some mixed media on the background. This is us watching Charlotte's Web. I'm gonna set this one to the other side so I know to fix it. Here I backed a large apple cut file that says Back to School with pattern papers from Go the Scenic Route, documenting my kids in, oh my goodness, this was 2nd and 1st grade. My, how time flies, because now they are in 6th and 5th grade. I can't even. Seriously, time flies. That's crazy. Another fall themed page with Go the Scenic Route. So I used a leaf punch. It has a bunch of different leaves on it to punch these colorful leaves. And then this is from a family reunion up in the mountains here in Colorado. I fussy cut lots of florals from one of the pattern papers and put them onto this dark purple, dark blue cardstock background with foam squares so that it's got some dimension. This page, I believe I have a YouTube tutorial for. It came together super quick, I think in like a half hour. It's just torn paper strips and then cascading floral die cuts down the right side. Here I used flower punches, placed them all around this page, and then had my machine draw these concentric circles very lightly and then machine stitched over those circles with different colors of thread, and then erased any of the pencil marks that were still showing. So I definitely didn't freehand this. I had the machine draw the circles first. Here are some fun feathers made from Go the Scenic Route papers to document Jane's love of birds. One of the papers has a bunch of doilies, so I fussy cut those to look like snowflakes for a snowy, wintry page. Here I made chipboard frames, so these are all chipboard and then covered with the pattern papers from Go the Scenic Route. This was a fun one to make. This is my penny tile cut file, so I cut it from this watercolory squares paper and then put them right back on top of another piece of paper that's exactly the same. So you get this really cool texture going on the background. And this is all Go the Scenic Route. As well as this last one in this stack, I die cut snowflakes from, I believe, 2 pattern papers from Go the Scenic Route and then layered them across this bright pink background. So it's kind of an untraditional wintry page, but I love how colorful and fun it is. Let's bring in the next stack. This stack of pages uses 2 collections called Wonders and Bungalow Lane. So this first section is Wonders. This is one of the tile pattern papers, and I added hand stitching the whole entire page. One of my favorites, hand-stitched pages like this, embroidered pages, are my absolute favorite, and I keep them on my layout wall for years and years because I just don't have the heart to tuck them away into scrapbooks. Here's a layout made with my 12 love cut files. So the large title does most of the work, and then I embellished with the florals from Wonders. Here I fussy cut an entire pattern paper, so the pattern paper is filled with Wonderful on repeat, and then since the background's colorful and busy, I just added 2 little clusters of photos and embellishments. I used a heart punch and folded the edges over from the double-sided pattern papers to create this fun background of hearts. I have a process video for this one actually, pretty recently. Did mixed media on the background, including some gold leafing, and then hand stitched the London letters with a chain stitch, as well as a London skyline cut file down here at the bottom for some balance. Here I backed a stacked suitcases cut file with pattern papers, so that becomes the focal element, and tucked my photos underneath. Here I die cut the spring letters from white cardstock and then topped them with flowers. So these are layered flower punches, and I punched pastel colors from Wonders. So even though Wonders has some darker colors, I focused this page on just the lighter ones for an ultimate springy feel. Another cut file. I swear I use cut files on like 95% of my layouts. But it's a large title with some of the bolder colors, and then look how large this photo is. So I've got the balance of the title with the large photo on the left. Here I hand stitched with a chain link stitch this love heart, and then filled it in with a bunch of red and purple pattern paper hearts made with punches. For a fun little finishing touch, I used a heart scalloped border punch on each edge. Here I used a layered flower cut file and leaf cut file to make monochromatic, or not hearts, but layered flowers. I backed an open book with flowers growing out of it with solid papers from the project pad of Wonders. Here's a bunch of different titles. So we've got a solid title, a hand-stitched title, and then an open cut file backed with pattern papers, and then a sticker title, balanced with 4 photos across the bottom, all with Wonders. Here's a floral cut file backed and topped with more flowers. This one I know I have a tutorial for on YouTube. It's showing all of my favorite hand stitches, the back stitch, the chain stitch, and the French knot. And this is a monochromatic yellow page made with all of the yellow papers and embellishments I could find in Wonders. Here are paper frames. So this is a grid background. So I focused on one frame at a time. 4 of them filled with photos, and then embellishments in the rest. Here I fussy cut butterflies from the Wonders 12 by 12 paper as well as the 6 by 8 paper pad, and then layered them tone on tone, cascading down this rainbow striped paper. Here I die cut a whole bunch of leaves from Wonders papers and then placed them in a wreath for really textured background. This is one of the pages my kitties have gotten to, so I'll have to go back and fix that up, but I don't mind. I love my kitties more than life itself. Here is a quilt cut file that I backed with pattern papers. Cut files are just such a great way to fill up your background and have a jumping off point for the rest of the layout. I used my friend Joka Marco's floral heart stamp. So her shop is a pocket full of happiness. She has so many beautiful stamps and steel dies. So I stamped different colorways, cut them out, and then used them to create a background. Here's that same rainbow striped paper, but this time I cut the stripes out, distressed the edges, and then realigned them back onto a white cardstock background before cascading embellishments on top, tone on tone. So I got my pinks right here, yellows here, blues, and purples. Here's another quilt-like background, but these are squares folded, so they become these diamond shapes arranged in rainbow order. The focal element of this page is a pie chart heart. So I cut the pattern papers out and then hand stitched, big difference, around each wedge using a chain link stitch and tone on tone colors. This page is actually a 2-page spread. So it is using wonders, but also elements from my stash. So these buttons and sequins and brads I've had in my stash for years and years. And the fireworks are a cut file. So I sprayed and misted a white cardstock with red and blue mists, and then die cut the fireworks, layered them on this background, and then filled in the empty spaces with all of these little bits and pieces. This one is also a cut file, so it's this firework cut file, and then I did different types of stitching in between to really highlight that firework feel. Here are flowers made with heart punches, so each of these folded petals are hearts folded in half. And now this is the first of my Bungalow Lane pages. This is one of the cut files from my 12 love cut files, and I backed it with reds and pinks and kind of oranges from Bungalow Lane. These are the stamps from Bungalow Lane. So I had fun delving into that. So I stamped the entire background, stamped flowers, fussy cut them out, and then added them all across the background. Here is a butterfly punch made from one of the Bungalow Lane papers. And then I added hand stitching in between, like butterflies in flight. So for this page, I used 2 of the same paper. I fussy cut the squares and triangles from one paper and then attached them back on top of the same pattern paper with foam squares to create a fun texture and dimension. Lots of quilt-inspired designs in Bungalow Lane. So for this one, I punched squares and then folded them in half, but then only added glue on half of the square, so you get this quilt-like vibe. Here I used flower punches from kind of the warmer papers in Bungalow Lane to create a frame. I hand stitched this pattern paper, so here's another quilt-like page. It's got a really fun texture from all of this hand stitching. For this page, the main focal element is this repeating title of love, and I used Joca Marco's dies once again with Bungalow Lane papers. Here's one of my cut files. It's a small world, so I backed all of the little open pieces with pattern papers from Bungalow Lane. These are vellum clouds at the top for some balance and to finish off the page. And the pictures are actually from the ride, It's a Small World, so they go together perfectly. Here's a grid background made with the 2x2 pattern papers from Bungalow Lane, and I added hand stitching to a lot of them for that textured homespun feel. On this page, I repeated a scalloped border strip, so I punched a rainbow of papers and then layered them in rainbow order down the page, and it's just got really fun texture. For this page, I embroidered the pattern paper with tone-on-tone floss. So blue floss around the blue corners, yellow in the yellow triangles, orange, pink, etc. So Bungalow Lane is very fall themed, but it was a fun challenge to make a wintry, snowy page with it. So I used a couple different snowflake punches to make a bunch of pattern paper snowflakes and placed them in a wreath design. Here I used one of my stencils and modeling paste and mixed media to create these branches in warm colors. Again, Bungalow Lane is fall themed, but I wanted to make a Christmas page, so I used the brighter papers, reds and greens, yellows and oranges, and backed this large focal point title cut file. Using all the flowers and leaves from the die cuts, there's even some butterflies here and there, and then topped them with a few embellishments, all from Bungalow Lane. Here's the last page I made with Bungalow Lane for now. Made some paper pinwheels, and I do have a process video for this one. Okay, let's move on to the next stack. All right, this is actually the last stack. I think it has the most layouts. We can still see them all pretty well, even though the stack is like 5 inches high. Anyway, these next few pages are using my Splendid collection with American Crafts. I've actually made a lot more with Splendid than I'll show, but those are all in my book called Make Your Memory. So in about a year, I'll go through and do another flip through of my layouts, and I'll include all of those layouts in that flip through. So for now, we just get a little glimpse into Splendid. This was made for Scrapbook and Cards Today. These papers, the gingham ones aren't from Splendid, but the floral ones are, as well as the embellishments. So this is kind of fun to tilt your page at an angle for a whole dynamic and unexpected twist. Here is a pumpkin cut file that I backed with the bright colors from Splendid. I love non-traditional Halloween and Christmas pages. Here I backed a summer cut file with all the bright colors and then tucked some floral and leaf die cuts under the corners. Here I made hearts from Splendid pattern papers and got my photo in a heart shape as well, front and center. Here is a page for my 12 love cut files, I believe. And so I placed the flowers in a heart shape and then topped it with the cut file. Here it's the exact same cut file, actually, just shrunk down. And I cut them from a rainbow of pattern papers and then did a grid design. And I miss my sweet little jelly bean. Here is that same technique shown a few layouts ago. These are folded hearts made into flowers and then placed in a wreath design. I love all the bright colors in Splendid. Speaking of bright colors, I die cut these concentric stars from brightly colored pattern papers and then machine stitched over them onto the background. Here I backed a large title cut file and backed some of the open spots with pictures of me and my crafty friends. Another crafty friends page. So this was made for, I think it was the Take and Make from She Loves Color. So this page, I should have had these right in a row, but I had all of the inner all of the inner stars from this cut file. So I used the inner stars, layered them together, and then added them to this background with a little bit of mixed media. Here's one of the cut files from my 12 love cut files. So I backed it with the bright papers and tucked my photo in, got some mixed media, the works. Here I used a scalloped border punch and punched a rainbow of colors and layered them together. So you've seen this technique before, just going through these layouts, but by simply changing the collection and changing the punch, you get all new results. Here's another cut file that I backed with pattern papers. Love my scrappy friends. I want to get together more often. Now we've reached my garden shop collection. So for this page, I've repeated hearts all across the background using pattern papers and 2 different sizes of heart punches. Yep. Here I made a floral oval shaped wreath from cut files. Here's kind of that same concept where I used scalloped border punches in a rainbow of colors and layered them across this half of the page. I do have a process video for this one, a recent one. I do have a process video for this one too. This is also using Garden Shop, and I did some mixed media, used punches, a large title cut file to tie it all together. This is one of the double page spreads I made for a Scrapbook and Cards Today class. Let me get them side by side so you can see. I'm trying to make more double page spreads. I know that they are in demand. So I used one piece of pattern paper, cut it into squares, cut out hearts, placed them here and there for this grid background. Here's the other double page spread I taught. So they are paint brushes with paint coming out from the paint brushes. I did a bundle of fall cut files, which are perfect because Garden Shop is fall themed. So I backed this pumpkin truck with pattern papers, did some mixed media on the background, and we got that cute photo of Fox. They're growing up right before our eyes, just in this video, going back 3 years. Here's one of the cut files again from the fall cut files. So I watercolored on top and then layered it over an unwatercolored same cut file. I backed this fall wreath with all kinds of pattern papers from Garden Shop. Another cut file from the fall cut files. I think it's called the 2020 autumn cut files actually, just to distinguish from my 20 fall cut files. I got all kinds of cut file bundles, but this one's got different flowers and leaves, so I cut them from a single pattern paper and layered them on the background. Documenting our Garden Shop weekend, so it's an in-person event that we taught here in Colorado, and we have another one coming up this winter. Well, actually, it's technically in fall. It's in November. I embroidered this pattern paper, this chevron paper, with tone-on-tone stitching, doing a back stitch. And now we're to my current collection, which is Blooming Wild, which is a nod to Bloom Street, which was some of the first layouts that we went through. So I have a cut file bundle right now called 36 cut files for stitching. So it cuts the holes for you, and then you add hand stitching through the holes. Another one from my 36 stitching cut files, which is Love, Love, Love. And I used colors of thread to match Blooming Wild. That's what this pattern paper is, and these embellishments. Here's a layout from the spring 2023 issue of Scrapbook and Cards Today magazine. So I'm documenting Fox and his friends celebrating their birthdays. So pennants and birthdays go hand in hand. Another one for my 36 stitching cut files. So these are stripes, but then I stitched in between the stripes with white thread as well. Very recent photos taken only about 2 weeks ago. Look how much bigger they are in these photos. I have a process video for this one. This is one of my favorite papers in Blooming Wild, and I just sliced through some of the designs to create this textured background. I embroidered this paper, and I have a tutorial on the SCT YouTube channel with tone-on-tone stitching. A birthday layout also made for Scrapbook and Cards Today, so it's a shaker. These balloons are shakers and embellished with Blooming Wild. There's a new product in Blooming Wild, which are these chipboard alpha outlines, and I backed them with pattern paper. So if you don't have an electronic cutting machine, this is a great option. Last but not least, friends, this This brings us to my last layout in this series of 137 pages, made with one of my stitching cut files. It's rainbows for stitching, and I didn't want to cover hardly any of it up, so I've just got a little cluster with my photo and title and a few little floral embellishments. Thanks so much for joining me as we just flipped through 137 scrapbook layouts. Let me know if you have any questions about anything, and I hope to see you sooner. I definitely want to do more of these since it's been way too long. So see you again next time.